Have you ever experienced a small act of kindness that completely changed your day? For Ji-yeon, a young waitress at a small cafe in Seoul, it was just another ordinary day. She had been working at the cafe for over a year, serving customers with a warm smile, making sure their coffee was perfect, and handling busy mornings with ease. That day, the cafe was bustling as usual. The sound of steaming milk, clinking cups, and light chatter filled the air. Ji-yeon was moving quickly between tables, balancing trays with precision. Then, the doorbell chimed. A man in a cap and sunglasses stepped in, walking calmly toward an empty table near the window. His presence was quiet, but there was something about him that felt familiar. Ji-yeon approached with a bright smile. "Good afternoon. What would you like to order?" The man looked up slightly, his sunglasses hiding most of his face. "I'll have a black coffee, please. And a slice of the cafe's best cake," he said in a smooth, polite voice. Ji-yeon nodded and quickly jotted down the order. She had served countless customers before, but there was something different about this one. As she turned away to place the order, another waitress whispered, "Do you think that's him?" Ji-yeon frowned. "Him? Who?" The other waitress glanced at the man's table and then leaned in closer. "Kim Soo-hyun. The actor. Look at him carefully." Ji-yeon's heart skipped a beat. Kim Soo-hyun? No way. What would a superstar like him be doing in this little cafe? She stole a quick glance back at the man. The cap, the sunglasses, the relaxed posture, it all made sense now. It really was Kim Soo-hyun. Her hands trembled slightly as she grabbed the tray. She had served many customers before, but never someone as famous as him. Taking a deep breath, she approached his table and carefully placed the coffee and cake in front of him. "Here's your order. I hope you enjoy it." Kim Soo-hyun looked up again, giving a small but genuine smile. "Thank you." Ji-yeon felt her heart race at the sound of his voice. She quickly nodded and turned away, trying to act normal. She thought that would be the end of it, just another customer, just another order. But she had no idea that Kim Soo-hyun was about to do something that would change her life forever. Ji-yeon took a deep breath as she returned behind the counter, trying to shake off the sudden nerves. He's just a customer. Just treat him like everyone else. She kept herself busy, serving other tables, refilling cups, and wiping down the counter. But every few minutes, she found herself stealing glances at Kim Soo-hyun. Unlike most customers, he wasn't glued to his phone or in a rush. Instead, he took his time, sipping his coffee, occasionally looking out the window as if enjoying the peacefulness of the cafe. A few other customers seemed to notice him, but no one dared to approach. Perhaps they weren't completely sure it was him, or maybe they respected his privacy. Ji-yeon returned to his table after some time. "Would you like a refill on your coffee?" she asked, keeping her voice calm. Kim Soo-hyun looked up, seeming surprised for a moment, then smiled. "That would be great. Thank you." She carefully picked up his cup and walked back to the counter. As she poured the fresh coffee, she felt the eyes of her co-worker on her. "Are you nervous?" the other waitress whispered. Ji-yeon shook her head quickly. "No, of course not. He's just another customer." Her co-worker giggled. "Then why are your hands shaking?" Ji-yeon groaned, realizing her nerves were more obvious than she thought. She took the refilled cup back to his table. "Here you go." Kim Soo-hyun gave a polite nod. "I appreciate it." For a moment, Ji-yeon hesitated. There was something so genuine about his presence, it was different from how she imagined celebrities would be. Then, out of nowhere, he spoke again. "This cafe has a nice atmosphere. Do you like working here?" Ji-yeon blinked, caught off guard by the sudden question. Yes. I mean, it can be busy sometimes, but I like it. The customers are nice, and I enjoy making coffee." Kim Soo-hyun smiled slightly. "That's good. It shows." She tilted her head, confused. "Shows? You seem to put effort into what you do." Not everyone does that, he said before taking another sip of his coffee. Ji-yeon felt her cheeks heat up slightly. Is he just being polite? Or, does he really mean that? Before she could respond, the doorbell rang, and another wave of customers entered. She quickly excused herself and returned to work. As the cafe got busier, Ji-yeon lost track of time. When she looked back at his table again, she realized he was gone. Her heart sank slightly. That's it, then. He came, had his coffee, and left. She turned to clear his table, but as she reached for the empty cup, she noticed something else. A small envelope was left beside the plate. Her breath hitched. Slowly, she picked it up, turning it over in her hands. There was no name on it, but something told her it was for her. With shaky hands, she carefully opened the envelope and pulled out a handwritten note. The moment her eyes scanned the first line, she froze in place. She had no idea that what was written inside would move her to tears. Ji-yeon's hands trembled as she unfolded the small piece of paper. Why would Kim Soo-hyun leave me a note? She took a deep breath and began to read. Scroll to the kind waitress who made my afternoon a little brighter. Her eyes widened. Scroll. I've visited many cafes, but it's rare to find someone who serves with such sincerity. You remind me of why small moments matter, because they make a difference in someone's day. Thank you for your kindness. Keep shining. At the bottom, there was no signature, no fancy autograph, just a simple smiley face drawn with care. Ji-yeon's breath hitched. Did he really mean this? It was such a short note, yet it carried so much warmth. It wasn't about money or fame. It was simply one human appreciating another. A lump formed in her throat as she clutched the note tighter. She had worked long shifts, served countless customers, and dealt with difficult days, but no one had ever taken the time to acknowledge her effort like this before. Her co-worker noticed her frozen stance and approached. What's that? Ji-yeon swallowed hard and hesitated before showing her the note. As soon as her co-worker read it, she gasped. Oh. My. God. This is from him, isn't it? Ji-yeon nodded slowly. Her co-worker clutched her arm. Do you know what this means? He noticed you, Ji-yeon. He actually noticed you. Ji-yeon couldn't respond. She just stared at the note, reading it over and over again, as if trying to engrave each word in her heart. At that moment, a customer called for assistance, snapping her back to reality. She quickly folded the note and tucked it safely into her apron pocket. I'll treasure this forever. She thought that was the end of it, that Kim Soo-hyun had simply left a kind note and moved on with his day. But she was wrong. Because this was only the beginning. The next day, when Ji-yeon arrived at work, something felt different. As soon as she walked into the cafe, she noticed that her co-workers were whispering excitedly, their eyes darting toward her. She frowned. What's going on? One of them held up their phone. Ji-yeon, have you seen the news? Her stomach dropped. What news? Her co-worker thrust the phone toward her. Mobile phone with arrow, breaking news, Kim Soo-hyun's handwritten note to cafe waitress goes viral. Ji-yeon's eyes widened in shock. Wait. What? She quickly scrolled through the article. Someone, maybe another customer, maybe one of her co-workers, had taken a photo of the note and shared it online. The post had gone viral overnight, and now, the entire country was talking about it. Pushpin Kim Soo-hyun's kindness shines again. His heartfelt note to a hard-working waitress has fans in awe. Pushpin netizens are wondering, who is the lucky waitress who received this letter? Pushpin. Some say kindness is rare in the entertainment world. Kim Soo-hyun proves otherwise. Ji-yeon felt the color drain from her face. Her hands shook as she scrolled through the hundreds of comments. Speech balloon. Wow, this waitress must be really special. Speech balloon. I wish celebrities acknowledged regular people more often. This is beautiful. Speech balloon. Who is she? We need to find her. Ji-yeon's heart pounded. This can't be happening. She had spent her entire life blending into the background, happy to work behind the scenes, never seeking attention. But now, the entire country was looking for her. And before she could even process what was happening, her manager rushed toward her. "Ji-yeon! There are reporters outside." Her breath caught in her throat. "Reporters? Here?" She quickly turned toward the cafe's front window. And there they were, cameras, journalists, people holding microphones, all waiting. Her entire world had just changed overnight. But what she didn't know was that the biggest surprise was still to come. Ji-yeon's hands gripped her apron tightly as she peeked through the cafe window. Outside, a crowd had formed, journalists, cameras flashing, and curious passers-by whispering among themselves. Some held microphones, waiting eagerly for someone to step forward. This can't be real." Her co-worker nudged her. "Ji-yeon, what are you going to do? They're literally here for you." She shook her head, feeling a lump form in her throat. "I don't know. I never wanted any of this attention." Before she could say anything else, her manager approached with a serious expression. "Ji-yeon, we need to talk." She followed him into the back office, her heart pounding. The manager sighed and placed his hands on his hips. "This cafe has never had this much publicity before. It's good for business, but I need to know how you feel about all this. Reporters are asking for an interview with the mystery waitress. Some fans are even trying to find out who you are. If you're not comfortable, I can handle it." Ji-yeon swallowed hard. "An interview? People trying to find me? Just because of a note?" She had spent her whole life working quietly, never seeking attention. But now, because of a simple act of kindness, she had been thrown into the spotlight. "Can I have some time to think about it?" she asked hesitantly. Her manager nodded. "Of course. But whatever you decide, just know that this is bigger than just a cafe story now." She exhaled deeply, stepping back into the main area. But before she could even process her thoughts, her phone buzzed in her pocket. Mobile phone with arrow, unknown number calling. Her stomach tightened. Who could be calling her? She hesitated before answering. "Hello?" A familiar voice came through the line. "Telephone receiver, Ji-yeon SSI, it's Kim Soo-hyun." Her breath caught in her throat. "What? Why is he calling me?" For a moment, she was completely speechless. Kim Soo-hyun let out a soft chuckle. "I hope I'm not calling at a bad time." "And no. Not at all," she stammered, gripping the phone tightly. He paused for a moment before speaking again. "I saw the news. I had no idea the note would go viral like this. I just wanted to check on you. Are you okay?" Ji-yeon's heart clenched at his concern. Of all people, Kim Soo-hyun, one of the most famous actors in the country, was personally calling her to see if she was all right. She bit her lip, trying to find the right words. "It's overwhelming," she admitted. "I never expected this to happen. I just wanted to keep working like normal." "I understand," he said gently. "I never meant to cause you any trouble." She quickly shook her head, even though he couldn't see her. No, it's not your fault. I don't know how to handle this kind of attention." Another pause. Then, his voice came through again, steady and reassuring. "If you'd like, I can help." Ji-yeon blinked. "Help? Yes. Maybe we can meet somewhere private and talk about it? I know what it's like to suddenly be in the spotlight when you're not prepared for it. I can give you some advice." Ji-yeon's mind spun. He wants to meet me? Again? This was all happening so fast. She gripped the phone tighter, taking a deep breath. "Okay. I'd like that." Kim Soo-hyun chuckled softly. "Great. I'll send you the details soon." Before she could say anything else, the call ended. Ji-yeon stared at her phone in disbelief. This isn't just some small moment anymore. My life is really changing, isn't it? And she still had no idea just how much. Ji-yeon stared at her phone, her fingers still gripping it tightly. Did that really just happen? Kim Soo-hyun, had just called her, personally, to check if she was okay. And now, they were going to meet again. Her co-worker, who had been eavesdropping the entire time, practically exploded with excitement. Oh. My. God. You're going to meet Kim Soo-hyun again? Ji-yeon, do you realize what's happening right now? Ji-yeon blinked, still dazed. I don't even know what to think anymore. Her co-worker shook her shoulders. Girl, this is like a K-drama happening in real life. Ji-yeon groaned, covering her face with her hands. Please don't say that. Her co-worker giggled. Fine. But seriously, what are you going to wear? Where are you meeting him? Are you going to tell him how much you admire his work? Ji-yeon took a deep breath and lowered her hands. He said he'd send the details soon. I don't even know where we're meeting yet. Almost as if on cue, her phone buzzed again. Envelope with arrow message from Kim Soo-hyun. Would you be comfortable meeting at a quiet cafe? I know a place where there won't be too much attention. Ji-yeon hesitated for a moment before replying. Envelope with arrow, that sounds good. Just let me know when and where. Within seconds, another message came in. Envelope with arrow tomorrow at 3 p.m. I'll send a car to pick you up. Don't worry, it'll be discreet. Ji-yeon's heart skipped a beat. A car? Her co-worker peeked over her shoulder, reading the message, and immediately screamed. A private car? Oh my god, Ji-yeon, this is some next-level romance movie stuff. Ji-yeon's face turned bright red. Stop it. It's not like that. He's just being polite. Her co-worker smirked. Sure. Just a casual superstar arranging a private meeting with you. No big deal. Ji-yeon groaned again. What had she gotten herself into? The next day, 3 p.m. The moment had arrived. Ji-yeon stood outside her apartment, nervously adjusting her outfit. She had chosen something simple yet neat, nothing too fancy, nothing that screamed she was trying too hard. Then, a sleek black car pulled up in front of her. The tinted window rolled down slightly, and a driver politely nodded. Miss Ji-yeon? She swallowed hard and nodded. Yes. Mr. Kim asked me to bring you to the cafe. Please, get in. Ji-yeon hesitated for a second, her heart racing. This is real. I'm really doing this. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the car, the door closing softly behind her. The ride was smooth, the city passing by in a blur. 15 minutes later, they arrived at a small, charming cafe hidden in a quiet alleyway. There were no crowds, no cameras, no reporters. It was perfect. As she stepped inside, her eyes immediately landed on him. Kim Soo-hyun sat at a corner table, dressed casually in a sweater and jeans, his cap resting beside him. The warm cafe lighting made him seem even more approachable than before. He looked up and smiled as their eyes met. You made it. Ji-yeon nodded, still feeling out of place. I did. He gestured to the seat across from him. Please, sit. She did, placing her hands on her lap to keep them from trembling. For a moment, there was silence. Then, he leaned forward slightly and spoke in a gentle voice. I wanted to meet you because I know how overwhelming this must be for you. And, because I think we have something in common. Ji-yeon blinked. Common? What do you mean? He smiled softly. I know what it's like to suddenly have all eyes on you when you never asked for it. Her breath hitched. She had never thought about it like that. Before she could respond, he continued. You didn't expect any of this to happen, right? You were just doing your job, and now the whole country wants to know who you are. Ji-yeon nodded slowly. It's a lot to take in. I understand, he said sincerely. When I first became famous, I felt the same way. People recognizing me everywhere, talking about me, judging me even when I was just trying to live my life. She stared at him, realizing for the first time that being a celebrity wasn't as glamorous as it seemed. You handled it well, though, she said. He chuckled. Not always. I made mistakes. But I had people who helped me through it. And now, I want to help you. Ji-yeon's lips parted slightly. Help me? He nodded. If this situation is too much, I can use my connections to take the spotlight off you. I can talk to the media, tell them to stop looking for you. Or. She swallowed hard. Or you can use this as an opportunity. Ji-yeon frowned slightly. Opportunity? Kim Soo-hyun leaned back in his chair, watching her carefully. You don't have to hide. You could take this moment and turn it into something good. Maybe use your story to inspire others. Or maybe you can just take this chance to do something you've always wanted to do. Ji-yeon felt her head spinning. Something I've always wanted to do? She had never thought about it before. She had always been focused on just getting through the day, never considering that something bigger could be waiting for her. She looked down at her hands, thinking. Then, she looked up at him. What do you think I should do? Kim Soo-hyun smiled. I think you should decide what's best for you. Ji-yeon took a deep breath. She still didn't know what her answer would be. But she knew one thing for sure. Her life would never be the same again. Ji-yeon stared at Kim Soo-hyun, his words echoing in her mind. You should decide what's best for you. It seemed so simple when he said it, but how could she possibly make such a choice? She had never imagined a moment like this where her life could take an entirely new direction, all because of a single note left on a table. She exhaled slowly, gathering her thoughts. I don't know if I want attention, she admitted. I never planned for any of this. Kim Soo-hyun nodded in understanding. That makes sense. But sometimes, the things we never planned for lead us to the best moments of our lives. Ji-yeon hesitated. But, what if I mess up? What if people judge me? He let out a soft chuckle. They will. No matter what you do, some people will always have something to say. But that doesn't mean you should stop yourself from living the way you want to. His words struck a chord within her. All her life, Ji-yeon had been someone who blended into the background, content with being unnoticed. But now, she had a choice. To return to the quiet life she had always known, or step forward into something unknown. Before she could speak, the waitress arrived with their drinks. Ji-yeon hadn't even noticed she had ordered something. Kim Soo-hyun thanked the waitress before turning back to Ji-yeon. Can I ask you something? She nodded. Of course. Have you ever had a dream? She blinked, caught off guard. A dream? Yeah, he said. Something you've always wanted to do but never had the chance. Ji-yeon lowered her gaze, tracing the rim of her cup with her fingers. When I was younger. I loved writing, she confessed. I used to fill notebooks with stories and poems. But life got busy, and I stopped. Kim Soo-hyun's expression softened. Why did you stop? Ji-yeon let out a small laugh, shaking her head. Because it wasn't realistic. People told me writing wouldn't pay the bills, so I found a stable job instead. He leaned forward slightly. And do you regret it? She bit her lip, thinking. I don't know. I never really thought about it. Kim Soo-hyun smiled. Then maybe it's time you do. Ji-yeon felt something stir inside her. Was he right? Had she spent so much time worrying about stability that she had given up on something that once made her happy? She looked up at him. Do you ever regret your path? He shook his head. No. It wasn't always easy, but I love what I do. And if you love something, you should at least give yourself a chance to try. Ji-yeon let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. He made it sound so simple. Even if I fail, she asked. Kim Soo-hyun smiled. Failure isn't the end. It's just part of the journey. His words stayed with her. Maybe she had spent too long fearing failure. Maybe it was time to start thinking about what she truly wanted. She met his gaze, feeling a newfound determination. Maybe I should try again. He nodded, a proud smile forming on his lips. I think you should. For the first time in a long time, Ji-yeon felt something she hadn't before: hope. She wasn't sure where this path would lead her, but one thing was clear. Her life was no longer just about serving coffee. Ji-yeon sat in silence for a moment, letting Kim Soo-hyun's words sink in. Failure isn't the end. It's just part of the journey. She had spent years avoiding risks, settling into the comfort of her routine. But now, sitting across from a man who had built his career on taking risks, she couldn't help but wonder, what if she had been holding herself back all along? She looked up at him, curiosity flickering in her eyes. Do you think people like me can actually chase their dreams? Kim Soo-hyun chuckled softly. Of course. I wasn't born into fame. I had to work hard for it, just like anyone else trying to make a name for themselves. And trust me, I failed plenty of times before I got where I am today. Ji-yeon was surprised by his honesty. Most celebrities didn't talk about their failures. But you made it, she pointed out. You're one of the biggest actors in the country now. He nodded. Yes, but I still remember the times when I doubted myself. The times when people told me I wasn't good enough. I could have listened to them, but I didn't. And that's the only reason I'm sitting here now. Ji-yeon's fingers tightened around her cup. Could she do the same? Could she ignore the voices of doubt and finally take a step toward something bigger? She let out a small laugh. I never thought a coffee order would lead to a conversation like this. Kim Soo-hyun grinned. Life is funny that way, isn't it? She nodded, feeling lighter than she had in days. For the first time, the idea of stepping out of her comfort zone didn't seem so terrifying. As their conversation continued, she found herself opening up more, talking about the stories she used to write, the small dreams she had buried under responsibilities. And Kim Soo-hyun listened. Really listened. It felt surreal, one of the biggest stars in the country, sitting across from her, encouraging her to believe in herself. Time passed quickly, and before she knew it, an hour had gone by. Kim Soo-hyun glanced at his watch. I should probably get going soon. But before I do. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out another envelope. Ji-yeon's heart skipped a beat. Another note? She hesitated before taking it. What's this? He smiled. Something to remind you that dreams don't have deadlines. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unfolded the note. Scroll Ji-yeon. I hope you never stop believing in your own story. Because I think it's just getting started. Kim Soo-hyun ***. Ji-yeon's breath hitched. She looked up at him, eyes wide. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, he said softly. Just promise me you'll at least think about it. She clutched the note against her chest, feeling an unfamiliar warmth spread through her. Maybe this was fate. Maybe meeting him wasn't just a random accident. Maybe it was the push she needed to finally start chasing something bigger. As Kim Soo-hyun stood up, she found herself blurting out, "Will I see you again?" He paused, then smiled. I hope so. And just like that, he was gone. Ji-yeon sat there, staring at the note in her hands, realizing something life-changing. This wasn't the end of her story. It was just the beginning. Ji-yeon sat in the quiet cafe long after Kim Soo-hyun had left, staring at the note in her hands. Scroll I hope you never stop believing in your own story. Because I think it's just getting started. Kim Soo-hyun ***. Her fingers tightened around the paper as she felt an overwhelming wave of emotions rush through her. Is this really happening? Did I really just have a conversation with Kim Soo-hyun about my dreams? It all felt surreal. Just a few days ago, she was a simple cafe waitress, living an ordinary life. And now, she had experienced something that felt like it was straight out of a movie. Her heart pounded as she realized something important. This isn't about Kim Soo-hyun. It's about me. Yes, he had been the one to encourage her. He had given her a perspective she never allowed herself to have before. But the choice to change her life? That was hers alone to make. She looked out the cafe window, watching the sun dip below the horizon. For the first time in a long time, she felt something new. Hope. The next morning, Ji-yeon arrived at the cafe for her shift, but something was different. As soon as she walked in, her co-workers rushed toward her. "Oh my God, Ji-yeon," one of them gasped. "Have you seen this?" Before she could respond, someone shoved a phone in front of her face. Mobile phone with arrow, breaking news, Kim Soo-hyun's heartfelt meeting with cafe waitress leaves fans in awe. Ji-yeon's stomach dropped. What? She scrolled down the article. Pushpin after his handwritten note to a hard-working waitress went viral, Kim Soo-hyun was seen meeting her at a small cafe, sparking curiosity about their conversation. Pushpin netizens are wondering, what did he say to her? And why did he meet her personally? Ji-yeon's heart pounded. How did they even find out? We were so careful. Before she could process it, her manager walked up to her. "Ji-yeon, we need to talk," he said seriously. She followed him to the office, anxiety gripping her. "Look," her manager started, "this is bigger than just our cafe now. People want to know about you. Reporters are calling, and even some brands are asking if you'd be open to publicity." Ji-yeon's head spun. Publicity? Her manager hesitated before nodding. Yes. A few publishing companies even asked if you'd be interested in writing something. Apparently, people are inspired by your story. She felt her breath catch. Writing. This is what I used to dream about. Her hands clenched into fists. A few days ago, she would have laughed at the idea of ever becoming a writer. But now? She thought about Kim Soo-hyun's words. Maybe you should at least try. She inhaled deeply, then looked up at her manager with newfound determination. I think I want to do it. Her manager raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? This could change everything for you. Ji-yeon nodded. I know. But maybe I'm ready for that change. For the first time, she felt in control of her own life. She wasn't just the cafe waitress who had received a note from a celebrity. She was Ji-yeon, someone with her own dreams, her own story, and now, her own future. Days later, as she sat in her small apartment, staring at a blank document on her laptop, she smiled. For years, she had been afraid to start. But now, she placed her fingers on the keyboard and typed the first words of her story. Because, just like Kim Soo-hyun said, this was only the beginning. Speech balloon. If you've made it this far, type new beginning in the comments.